The eviction notice felt like ice in my hands, even though the Georgia sun was beating down on me through the condo window. My husband Oliver stood in our living room that I'd helped pay for over 15 years, with his arms crossed and a smile on his face I'd never seen before. Cold, victorious. Behind him stood his mother Constance and his father Reginald, looking at me like I was dirt they'd finally scraped off their expensive shoes. This couldn't be real. But the $9 million lottery ticket stub on our coffee table said otherwise. And the divorce papers in Oliver's other hand made it crystal clear. He was taking everything, and I was supposed to walk away with nothing. But what none of them knew, what would make their smug faces crack in the coming weeks, was that the prenuptial agreement they'd forced me to sign 15 years ago, the one they'd designed to protect their precious family wealth from someone like me, contained one beautiful, ironic clause they'd all forgotten about. Before we continue, please drop a comment if you've ever experienced something like this. We'd love to hear your story, and subscribe to the channel to help us grow. 3 days earlier, everything had been normal. Well, as normal as life gets when you're married to a man whose parents never thought you were good enough. I'm Shanice, and I was 48 years old, working as an office manager at a dentist's office in downtown Atlanta. Not glamorous, but honest work. I'd met Oliver at a community fundraiser when I was 33. He was charming, successful, owned a consulting firm. He seemed different from the wealthy men I'd heard about. Down to earth, kind, genuine. But then I met his parents. I still remember sitting in their Buckhead mansion, my hands shaking as Reginald Whitmore III pushed the prenuptial agreement across his mahogany desk. The leather chair I sat in probably cost more than my car. His law degree from Yale hung on the wall behind him, gleaming in its gold frame. Constance sat beside him, her pearl necklace catching the light, her lips pressed into a thin line of disapproval. "It's standard procedure, dear," Constance had said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness. "We simply must protect what our family has built over generations. You understand, don't you?" I understood perfectly. I understood that they thought I was a gold digger. I understood that my mother being a cafeteria worker and my father being a bus driver meant I'd never be good enough for their son. I understood that no matter how much Oliver claimed to love me, his parents would always see me as beneath them. "Shanice, just sign it," Oliver had whispered, squeezing my hand. "It doesn't mean anything. It's just to make them happy. We're going to be together forever." I was in love. Stupid, blind, trusting love. So I signed. I barely read it. 37 pages of legal jargon that I didn't understand. Clauses about separate property and marital assets, percentages and divisions that made my head spin. The lawyer they provided, their lawyer, not mine, assured me it was fair and standard. I signed away my future with a smile, believing that love would conquer all. For 15 years, I lived in that marriage doing everything I could to prove myself. When we bought the condo in Midtown, I insisted on contributing to the mortgage payments even though Oliver made 3 times what I did. Every month, I transferred $1,200 from my account to our joint account for the mortgage. I paid for groceries. I paid for utilities. When his parents came over for their monthly dinners, I cooked elaborate meals, cleaning for days beforehand, making sure everything was perfect. And still, Constance would run her finger along the windowsill looking for dust. Still, Reginald would make comments about people who don't understand real success. Still, they treated me like I was staff at their son's house, not his wife. But Oliver was good to me, or so I thought. He brought me flowers on Fridays. He remembered my birthday. We had quiet evenings watching movies, Sunday morning breakfasts at our favorite diner. I thought we were happy. I thought we'd built something real despite his parents' cold shoulders and condescending smiles. Then came last Tuesday. Oliver had gone to the gas station on his way home from work, something he did every week. He bought lottery tickets, Powerball, Mega Millions, scratch-offs. Called it his retirement plan, always with a laugh. I'd roll my eyes and tell him he was wasting money, but it was harmless fun. $20 a week. What did it matter? I was in the kitchen making dinner when he came home. I heard the door open, heard his briefcase hit the floor. But something was different. His footsteps were faster, urgent. "Shanice," he said, his voice strange, tight. "Sit down." I turned from the stove, wooden spoon still in my hand. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" His face was flushed. His hands were shaking. He was holding his phone, and the look in his eyes was something I'd never seen before. Wild. Manic. "I won," he whispered. "I won the Powerball." The spoon clattered to the floor. "You what?" $9 million, Shanice. $9 million. I checked it 5 times. I drove to the lottery office and confirmed it. It's real. We're millionaires. I screamed. I actually screamed with joy. I threw my arms around him, laughing and crying at the same time. All those years of struggling, of budgeting, of watching every penny while trying to keep up with his parents' expectations. It was over. We'd made it. We were set for life. "We need to call a financial advisor," I was saying, my mind racing. "We should pay off the condo, maybe buy a house, start a college fund for when we have kids. Oh, Oliver, this changes everything." He pulled away from me. Just slightly, but I felt it. A distance opening up between us like a crack in ice. "Yeah," he said slowly. "It changes everything." I should have heard the warning in his voice. Should have seen the coldness creeping into his eyes. But I was too busy dreaming about our future that in his mind no longer included me. The next morning, he was gone before I woke up. He'd left a note saying he had early meetings. When I called him at lunch, his secretary said he was unavailable. He didn't come home for dinner, didn't answer my texts. By 10 p.m., I was worried sick, imagining car accidents, medical emergencies. He walked in at 11, carrying a briefcase I'd never seen before. "We need to talk," he said. And that's when my world collapsed. "I want a divorce, Shanice." 4 words. 4 simple words that detonated my entire life like a bomb. I stared at him, certain I'd misheard. "What?" "I've been thinking about this for a while. We've grown apart. We want different things. It's time to move on." He spoke like he was reading from a script, his voice flat and emotionless. "A while? Oliver, yesterday you were talking about buying a boat. Yesterday we were planning a vacation to Jamaica. What are you talking about?" He set the briefcase on the coffee table and opened it. Inside were stacks of papers. Divorce papers, already filled out, already signed by him. "The lottery win made me realize I need to make some changes in my life," he said, still not meeting my eyes. "I'm 51 years old. I want to start fresh. You deserve someone who can give you what you need, and I deserve to explore my options." Explore his options, with $9 million, without the wife who'd stood by him for 15 years. "You're doing this because of the money," I said slowly, the realization hitting me like a physical blow. "You're leaving me because you won the lottery." "Don't be dramatic. This has been coming for years. You know we haven't been happy." "I was happy. I am happy. Oliver, what is happening?" The front door opened and my blood ran cold. Constance and Reginald walked in like they owned the place, which, I would soon learn, they technically did in ways I didn't understand yet. "Oh, good. You've told her," Constance said, setting her designer purse on my dining room table. "We can move forward with the transition." "Transition?" I looked from her to Oliver to Reginald. What is she talking about? Reginald pulled out a folder from his own briefcase. How many briefcases did this family need? "The prenuptial agreement is very clear, Shanice. In the event of divorce, all assets acquired during the marriage remain separate property unless explicitly commingled. Oliver's lottery winnings are his separate property. You're entitled to nothing." "Nothing? I've paid into our mortgage for 15 years. I've contributed to this household." "You'll be compensated fairly for your documented contributions," Reginald said in the tone you'd use with a child. "Approximately $38,000 based on our calculations. We'll have a check for you by Friday." $38,000. For 15 years of my life. For 15 years of enduring their contempt, proving myself, sacrificing, loving a man who apparently saw me as disposable the moment he got rich. "You need to vacate the condo by this weekend," Constance added, examining her manicured nails. "Oliver needs space to process this transition, and your presence is simply inappropriate now." "This is my home!" "Actually," Oliver finally spoke, his voice quiet, "the condo is in my name. The mortgage is in my name. You've been a guest, a contributor, but not an owner." A guest? In the home I'd lived in for 12 years, the home I'd cleaned and decorated and filled with our life together. I looked at the three of them standing there, these people I'd tried so hard to impress, to love, to join, and I saw them clearly for the first time. They'd been waiting for this, planning for this. The prenup wasn't just protection. It was a weapon, locked and loaded for the day they decided to use it. But they'd made one critical mistake. That prenup they kept waving around like a victory flag? I'd finally read it, really read it, every single page. During those long nights when Oliver stopped coming home on time, when I sensed something was wrong, I dug it out of our file cabinet and studied it with a determination born of suspicion. And on page 23, buried in the subsection about extraordinary financial events, was a clause that made my heart race when I found it. All financial windfalls, including but not limited to lottery winnings, gambling proceeds, and inheritance from non-family sources, shall be considered marital assets, subject to equitable distribution. They'd been so focused on protecting the Whitmore family fortune from me that they'd included language to protect any windfall I might receive from being considered separate. They never imagined their precious son would be the one hitting the jackpot. I didn't tell them. Not then. I stood there in that living room, letting them think they'd won, watching Oliver avoid my eyes while his parents outlined my exit plan, like I was an employee being terminated. I took the eviction notice. I nodded. I agreed to be out by Sunday. And then I walked out of that condo, got in my car, and drove straight to a lawyer's office I'd researched 3 days earlier. Because what they didn't know, what would shatter their smug certainty, was that their own prenuptial agreement was about to become their worst nightmare. The very document designed to keep me from their money was going to hand me millions. But that wasn't even the worst of their problems. As I sat in Attorney Jerome Blackwell's office that night, explaining my situation, showing him the prenup, watching his eyes widen as he read page 23, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. "Mrs. Whitmore, this is Candace from HR at Brookshire Consulting. I was Oliver's executive assistant until yesterday when he fired me. We need to talk. He's been planning this divorce for 6 months, and I have the emails to prove it." I looked at Jerome, he looked at the text, then he looked at the prenup again. "Mrs. Whitmore," he said slowly, a smile spreading across his face. "I think we're going to need a bigger file folder. How do you feel about discovery depositions?" The war was just beginning. And this time, I wasn't signing anything without reading every single word. Reginald Whitmore III walked into my workplace like he owned it, because in a way, he did. I was at my desk at Brookshire Dental, sorting through patient files, when Dr. Brookshire's office door opened and Reginald emerged with my boss, both men wearing expressions that made my stomach drop. It was 9 a.m. on Thursday morning, exactly 48 hours after I'd hired Jerome Blackwell, and I hadn't even had my coffee yet. "Shanice, could you step into my office, please?" Dr. Brookshire's voice was strained, apologetic almost. Reginald stood behind him, arms crossed, that same cold smile he'd worn in my living room plastered across his face. I felt my co-workers' eyes on me as I walked past them. Miranda at the front desk looked concerned. Tommy, our dental hygienist, mouthed, "You okay?" I wasn't okay. I was about to be ambushed. Dr. Brookshire closed the door behind us. He wouldn't meet my eyes as he spoke. "Shanice, you've been a valued employee here for 11 years, but I've been made aware of some concerning situations in your personal life that could reflect poorly on the practice." Concerning situations? I looked directly at Reginald. "You mean my divorce?" "I mean the legal difficulties you're about to face," Reginald said smoothly. "The accusations you're making against my son, the false claims about marital assets. Dr. Brookshire and I play golf together, and I felt it was only right to inform him that you're involved in a frivolous lawsuit that could bring unwanted attention to his business." My hands clenched into fists. "It's not frivolous, and my personal life has nothing to do with my job." "Unfortunately," Dr. Brookshire said, still not looking at me, "Mr. Whitmore has also informed me that his family's foundation has been considering a significant donation to our practice for a new wing. However, that donation is contingent on certain conditions." There it was, the real power play. Reginald wasn't just threatening my job, he was bribing my boss to fire me. "You're firing me because he's paying you off?" My voice came out sharper than I intended. "I'm asking you to take a leave of absence," Dr. Brookshire said weakly. "Unpaid, until this situation resolves itself." "That's illegal. That's retaliation." "It's a business decision," Reginald interrupted. "And unless you want Dr. Brookshire to face a defamation lawsuit for employing someone making false accusations against a respected family, I suggest you accept it gracefully." I looked at my boss, this man I'd worked for loyally for over a decade, whose patients I'd comforted, whose schedule I'd managed, whose practice I'd helped build, and saw nothing but weakness. He was choosing money over loyalty, just like Oliver had. "Fine," I said, my voice ice. "I'll clean out my desk." "Security will help you," Reginald added, "to ensure nothing inappropriate leaves with you." They escorted me out like a criminal. Reginald watched from the doorway, making sure everyone saw, making sure I was humiliated. Miranda started crying at the front desk. Tommy tried to say something, but I shook my head. "Don't make this worse for yourself," my eyes said. I drove away from that office with a box of personal items, photos, a coffee mug, a plant that was probably dead by now, and no income, no job, no home, no husband. Fighting a family with unlimited money and unlimited connections. I called Jerome from the car, my voice shaking. "They got me fired." "That's retaliation," he said immediately. "We can sue for that too." "With what money? I just lost my job, and he'll do this everywhere I apply." "He knows everyone in Atlanta, everyone who matters." "Then we move faster. Meet me at my office in an hour. And Shanice, bring that text from Candace. We need her testimony." Candace Rothman turned out to be a 32-year-old woman with intelligent eyes and a grudge. She met us at Jerome's office carrying a laptop bag that she handled like it contained nuclear codes. In a way, it did. "I worked for Oliver for 8 years, she said, setting up her laptop on Jerome's conference table. "Executive assistant. I knew everything. His schedule, his passwords, his secrets. He trusted me completely. Right up until he won that lottery and decided anyone who knew him before his windfall was a liability." "He fired you?" I asked. "Gave me 2 weeks severance and a non-disclosure agreement to sign. Said the company was restructuring." She laughed bitterly. "But I'm a woman who believes in backup plans. Before I turned in my company laptop, I forwarded some interesting emails to my personal account." She turned the screen toward us. I started reading, and my blood turned to ice. The emails went back 6 months. Oliver to his father. "I think it's time to start exit planning. The marriage has run its course." Reginald to Oliver. "Agreed. Let me consult with Richards about the cleanest approach." Oliver to someone named Vanessa. "Can't wait until this is over and we can finally be together properly." Vanessa. Who is Vanessa? My voice sounded hollow. Candace pulled up another email chain. Vanessa Hartwell. She works in accounting at Brookshire Consulting. They've been having an affair for 9 months. 9 months. While I was cooking dinners and paying mortgages and believing we were happy, he was sleeping with someone else, planning to leave me, just waiting for the right moment. And the lottery gave him that moment. There's more, Candace said quietly. She opened a calendar. Look at his schedule from 6 months ago. Every Wednesday, dental appointment. Every single Wednesday. He doesn't go to the dentist that often, I whispered. No, but Vanessa lives in an apartment complex off Piedmont. Guess what day she works from home? Wednesdays, of course. Jerome was taking notes furiously. This establishes premeditation. He was planning the divorce before the lottery. That's crucial. But wait, Candace said, and something in her tone made me look up. There's something else. Something I didn't understand until I started putting pieces together. She pulled up a series of financial documents. Oliver's been moving money. Small amounts, nothing that would trigger alerts. But over the past 6 months, he's transferred nearly $200,000 from the business accounts into offshore holdings. That's embezzlement, Jerome said. That's my retirement fund, I said, my mind reeling. We own that business together. Technically, according to the prenup, the business is marital property. Not just your retirement fund, Candace continued. His parents' investment too. Reginald and Constance invested $500,000 in Brookshire Consulting 5 years ago. Oliver's been slowly siphoning money from the company and hiding it. I think he was planning to tank the business, claim bankruptcy, and escape with hidden assets. Jerome sat back in his chair. So not only is he trying to steal lottery winnings that are marital property, he's committed fraud against his own parents and embezzled from his company. And he fired the one person who knew about it, Candace finished. Me. That's why I'm here. He thought the NDA and severance would shut me up. But I don't appreciate being discarded like trash. I should have felt victorious. We had evidence. We had proof. We had everything we needed to destroy Oliver in court. But then my phone rang. It was my landlord. The apartment I'd moved into after leaving the condo, a small one-bedroom in a complex near Decatur, had just received a notice. Shanice, I'm sorry, Mrs. Chen said, but I got a call from a lawyer today. Apparently there's a lien on your assets. They're saying I can't rent to you because you're involved in litigation that could result in seizure of property. I don't understand it all, but my lawyer says I have to ask you to leave. Reginald, again. He was cutting off every avenue, every escape route. How long do I have? End of the week. I'm so sorry. I hung up. Jerome and Candace were watching me. They're getting me evicted from my apartment too, I said numbly. Where am I supposed to go? My phone rang again. This time it was my sister, Denise. Shanice, what is going on? I just got a call from some lawyer saying that if I help you, if I let you stay with me, I could be liable for harboring stolen property. They're threatening me. They said they'd sue me for helping you hide assets. Denise, I'm not hiding anything. I can't risk it. I've got 3 kids and a mortgage. I'm sorry, but you cannot come here. Figure something else out. She hung up. I sat there in Jerome's office, staring at my phone, feeling the walls close in. No job, no home, no family support, fighting people who had infinite resources and zero conscience. They're trying to break you, Jerome said quietly, to make you so desperate that you'll accept whatever settlement they offer. As if on cue, my phone dinged with an email. From Reginald's attorney, Marcus Richards. Mrs. Whitmore, in light of your current financial difficulties, my clients are prepared to offer a generous settlement of $150,000 to resolve all claims quickly and amicably. This offer expires in 48 hours. $150,000. It sounded like a fortune when you were about to be homeless. It sounded like salvation when you had no job and no prospects. It was also a tiny fraction of what I was entitled to under the prenup. "Don't you dare take it," Candace said, reading the email over my shoulder. "That's exactly what they want." "Easy for you to say," I shot back. "You're not the one sleeping in your car." "You won't be sleeping in your car," Jerome said firmly. "I have a friend who runs a women's shelter. You can stay there temporarily." "A shelter?" My voice cracked. "I'm 48 years old. I've worked my entire life. And I'm supposed to live in a homeless shelter because my husband decided to trade me in for a younger model and $9 million? "It's temporary," Jerome insisted. "Just until we get the preliminary hearing. Once the judge sees our evidence, the judge that Reginald probably plays golf with too?" I was spiraling. I knew it, but I couldn't stop. "You don't understand. These people own Atlanta. They own the courts and the lawyers and the businesses. How are we supposed to fight that?" Candace stood up. She walked around the table and grabbed my shoulders, forcing me to look at her. "Listen to me. I spent 8 years watching the Whitmores treat people like garbage. I watched Oliver cheat on you with Vanessa while you called the office leaving messages about anniversary dinner reservations. I watched Reginald destroy competitors with lawsuits and backroom deals. I watched Constance ruin women's reputations with rumors at country club luncheons. They're bullies. Rich, powerful bullies. And bullies win when their victims give up. I'm one person. You're one person with the truth. And you're one person who they underestimated." She pulled up another file on her laptop. "You want to know the real reason I'm here? The real reason I'm risking whatever legal threat they throw at me?" She turned the screen. It was a medical bill for fertility treatments, addressed to Vanessa Hartwell and Oliver Whitmore. "Vanessa's pregnant," Candace said. 4 months along. Oliver's been paying for private fertility doctors, planning his new family while he was still married to you. And here's the best part. He paid for it with company funds, money that's partly yours." I stared at the document. Oliver was going to be a father. With her. The thing we'd talked about, planned for, postponed because the timing wasn't right. He was doing it with someone else, and he'd used my money to pay for it. "So you can take their $150,000 and disappear," Candace continued. "Let them win. Let Oliver have his $9 million, his pregnant girlfriend, his fresh start. Let Reginald keep destroying people. Or you can fight. Really fight. Make them regret every underestimating you." Jerome's phone buzzed. He looked at it and his expression changed. "We have a problem," he said slowly. "A big one." "Bigger than everything else?" I almost laughed. "The Lottery Commission just released a statement. Apparently there's an investigation into Oliver's winning ticket. Anonymous tip claimed the ticket was purchased with company funds, which would make it company property, not personal property." He looked up at us. "If they prove that, the ticket could be invalidated entirely. Oliver wouldn't get anything. You wouldn't get anything. The state keeps the money." "Who would tip them off about that?" I asked. Candace and Jerome exchanged looks. "Someone who knew Oliver's patterns," Jerome said carefully. "Someone who had access to company purchasing records." They were both looking at me now. "You think I did this?" I stood up. "You think I tanked my own case?" "Did you?" Jerome asked. And that's when I realized someone was playing a bigger game than any of us understood. Someone wanted to make sure that if Oliver won, everyone lost. My phone rang again. Unknown number. Against my better judgment, I answered. "Hello, Shanice?" It was Constance. Her voice was poison wrapped in silk. "I think it's time you and I had a private conversation, woman to woman. Without the lawyers and the theatrics. Meet me at Piedmont Park in 1 hour. Come alone, or you'll regret it." She hung up before I could respond. Jerome was shaking his head. "Don't go. It's a trap." But I was already grabbing my purse, because I'd just realized something. The fertility bill, the offshore accounts, the lottery investigation. The systematic destruction of my life. This wasn't just about a divorce anymore. This was about something much, much bigger. And Constance knew exactly what it was. I met Constance in Piedmont Park sitting on a bench under an oak tree, dressed like she was attending a garden party instead of threatening someone's life. Her cream-colored suit probably cost more than I'd made in 3 months at the dental office. She didn't stand when I approached, just patted the bench beside her like I was a dog being called to heel. "Sit, Shanice. We have much to discuss." I remained standing. "What do you want, Constance?" She sighed, pulling an envelope from her purse. "I want to make this easier on everyone, especially you. You're living in a shelter now, aren't you? How humiliating that must be. A woman your age, reduced to charity." She opened the envelope, revealing a check. $250,000. Final offer. Sign the settlement agreement, drop your claims, and disappear from our lives forever. Or what? Her smile turned razor sharp. Or I destroy what's left of your pathetic existence. You think losing your job and your apartment was bad? Shanice, I haven't even started. I know about your mother in the nursing home. Peachtree Senior Living, isn't it? Such a nice facility. Expensive. I wonder how long they'll keep her if her bills suddenly go unpaid. And your sister Denise, her husband works for Southern Transit Authority. My husband sits on their board. One phone call and he's unemployed too. My hands shook. You're threatening my family? I'm protecting mine. You're a grasping, ungrateful woman who tricked my son into marriage and now wants to steal his fortune. I won't allow it. She held out the check. Take the money, sign the papers, or watch everyone you love suffer. I looked at that check. $250,000. Enough to secure my mother's care, enough to start over somewhere far from Atlanta, far from the Whitmores and their poison, enough to make me hate myself forever. No, I said quietly. Constance's face darkened. Excuse me? I said no. You can threaten me all you want. You can take my job and my home and try to isolate me from my family. But you can't make me sign away what's rightfully mine. That prenup your husband wrote? It's going to cost you millions. She stood up, her composure cracking. You stupid girl. You have no idea who you're dealing with. Actually, I do. I'm dealing with a family of bullies who thought they could use money and fear to control everyone around them. But you made one mistake, Constance. You underestimated me. I walked away, my legs shaking, my heart pounding. Behind me, I heard her shouting threats, but I didn't turn around. I didn't have anywhere to go except the women's shelter Jerome had arranged. It was clean, safe, run by a kind woman named Pastor Rita, who asked no questions when I arrived with my single box of belongings. My room was 8 by 10 feet, containing a twin bed, a small dresser, and a window that looked out onto a parking lot. I sat on that bed and cried for the first time since this nightmare began. Really cried. For my marriage, for my job, for the life I'd built that had been torn apart by greed. But Pastor Rita knocked on my door that evening with something unexpected. There's some people here to see you, she said gently. In the common room, I found 15 women from my church, Second Baptist, where I'd attended for 12 years. They'd brought food, toiletries, clothes, and something more valuable than any of it: solidarity. Sister Marjorie, who'd known me since I first started attending, pulled me into a hug. We heard what happened. The whole congregation knows. And we know you, Shanice. We know your heart. So, we're here. I don't understand, I whispered. Pastor Williams is organizing a legal fund, another woman, Sister Teresa, explained. We're taking donations after services. We've already raised $8,000 for your lawyer fees. And my nephew is a paralegal, added Sister Keisha. He's volunteering to help your attorney with research, free of charge. I started crying again, but this time from gratitude. These women, some of them struggling themselves, were standing with me against one of the wealthiest families in Atlanta. Why? I managed to ask. Sister Marjorie smiled. Because the Whitmores might have money, But we have something stronger. We have community, we have faith, and we have the truth on our side. The preliminary hearing was set for 2 weeks later. Jerome worked around the clock, building our case with help from the church's volunteer paralegal and Candace's continued cooperation. But the day before the hearing, everything almost fell apart. Candace called me, her voice panicked. "They found me. Oliver's lawyers served me with a lawsuit for theft of company property and breach of confidentiality. They're suing me for $5 million. "They're trying to silence you," I said. "It's working. Shanice, I can't testify. If I do, they'll destroy me financially. I have student loans, a mortgage. I can't fight a $5 million lawsuit." Jerome grabbed the phone. "Candace, listen to me. If you back out now, they win. They'll use this same tactic on every witness, every person who tries to stand up to them." "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I just can't." She hung up. Without Candace's testimony about the affair, the embezzlement, the premeditation, our case was weaker. Still viable because of the prenup clause, but weaker. I didn't sleep that night. I prayed, I paced, I questioned everything. But the next morning, I walked into that courtroom with my head high. The courtroom was smaller than I'd imagined, wood-paneled and formal. Oliver sat at the defendant's table with 4 attorneys surrounding him like a protective wall. Reginald and Constance sat in the front row behind him, their expressions smug. Vanessa was there too, her pregnancy just starting to show, holding Oliver's hand for support. On my side, Jerome, myself, and a few members from my church who'd taken the day off work to support me. Judge Patricia Henderson, a stern black woman in her 60s, entered, and everyone stood. "Be seated," she said, reviewing the files before her. "This is a preliminary hearing regarding the divorce of Oliver and Shanice Whitmore and the disputed classification of lottery winnings. Mr. Richards, you represent the petitioner?" Marcus Richards stood, all expensive suit and practiced confidence. "Yes, Your Honor, this is a straightforward case. Mr. Whitmore won a lottery jackpot after the marital relationship had effectively ended. The prenuptial agreement clearly establishes separate property rights. Mrs. Whitmore is entitled to compensation for her documented financial contributions to the household, which we've calculated at approximately $40,000. But she has no claim to the lottery winnings." Judge Henderson turned to Jerome. "Mr. Blackwell?" Jerome stood. "Your Honor, the prenuptial agreement actually supports our position, not theirs. If you'll turn to page 23, section 7, subsection C, the language is explicit. All financial windfalls, including but not limited to lottery winnings, gambling proceeds, and inheritance from non-family sources, shall be considered marital assets subject to equitable distribution." I watched the color drain from Reginald's face. He grabbed the prenup from his lawyer, frantically flipping pages. Constance leaned over, reading along, her expression shifting from confusion to horror. Marcus Richards stammered, "Your Honor, that clause was intended to protect any windfalls the respondent might receive." "The clause doesn't specify which party," Judge Henderson interrupted, reading the section herself. "It says all financial windfalls. That's unambiguous language." "Counselor." "But the intent is irrelevant when contract language is clear. This prenuptial agreement, signed by both parties and notarized, explicitly classifies lottery winnings as marital property." She looked over her glasses at Reginald. "I assume you drafted this agreement, Mr. Whitmore?" Reginald stood, his voice tight. "Your Honor, if I may address the court?" "You may not. You're not an attorney of record in this proceeding. Sit down." He sat, his face crimson with rage. The hearing continued for another hour. Marcus Richards tried every argument: that the marriage was already over, that Oliver had kept the tickets separate, that the prenup should be invalidated due to unconscionability. Judge Henderson shot down each one with increasing impatience. Finally, she held up her hand. Enough! Here's what I see. A prenuptial agreement with clear language classifying lottery winnings as marital property. A husband who won said lottery and immediately filed for divorce. A wife who contributed financially to the household for 15 years. The law here is straightforward, regardless of anyone's intentions or preferences. She looked directly at Oliver. Mr. Whitmore, did you purchase the lottery ticket during your marriage? Yes, but... Yes or no, Mr. Whitmore? Yes. And you won $9 million? Yes. Then by the terms of your own prenuptial agreement, those winnings are marital property. She turned to both attorneys. We'll reconvene in 30 days for the final hearing to determine exact distribution percentages. But make no mistake, Mrs. Whitmore is entitled to a substantial portion of these winnings. Gentlemen, I suggest you start negotiating a settlement because if this goes to trial, I promise you won't like my ruling. She banged her gavel. Court adjourned. I sat there, stunned. We'd won. Not everything, not yet, but we'd won the most important battle. Behind me, Sister Marjorie started clapping, then Sister Teresa. Then the whole section of church members erupted in applause until Judge Henderson's bailiff had to quiet them down. Oliver looked like he'd been punched. Constance was whispering furiously to Reginald, who was still staring at the prenup in disbelief. Vanessa had started crying. But then Marcus Richards approached Jerome with a card. My client would like to discuss settlement terms privately. 3 days later, we met in a conference room at Richard's firm. Oliver, his parents, Vanessa. Their 4 attorneys on one side, Jerome and me on the other. We're prepared to offer $3 million, Marcus said. Full and final settlement. You walk away, no trial, no publicity. $3 million. Half of what I was entitled to, but more money than I'd ever imagined having. No, I said. Everyone stared at me. Even Jerome looked surprised. Shanice, he whispered, that's a good offer. It's half of what the judge said I deserved, and it's not just about the money anymore. I looked directly at Oliver. You cheated on me. You planned to leave me months before the lottery. You used company money, our money, to pay for fertility treatments with your mistress. And then you tried to destroy my life when I fought back. Mrs. Whitmore, Marcus began, but I cut him off. I'm not finished. You fired Candace to silence her. You got me fired from my job. You threatened my family. You tried to make me homeless and desperate so I'd accept whatever crumbs you threw my way. $3 million is you trying to escape accountability, again. Constance leaned forward. You ungrateful... I want $4.5 million, I continued. Half the winnings after taxes. I want full reimbursement of my mortgage contributions with interest. I want a public apology from Oliver acknowledging the affair and the prenup clause. And I want you to drop the lawsuit against Candace immediately. The room erupted. Marcus was shaking his head. Reginald was shouting about extortion. Vanessa was crying harder. But Oliver just sat there, staring at his hands. Fine, he said quietly. Everyone stopped talking. What? Reginald demanded. I said fine. Give her what she wants. Oliver finally looked at me, and I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Genuine shame. She's right. About all of it. I'm not fighting anymore. Marcus tried to object, but Oliver silenced him with a gesture. Draw up the papers. $4.5 million. Mortgage reimbursement. Public statement. Drop the lawsuit against Candace. Do it. Reginald stood up so fast his chair fell over. Absolutely not. We'll appeal. You'll do nothing, Dad. Oliver's voice was steel. This is my mess. I'm cleaning it up. And honestly, she deserves every penny for putting up with us for 15 years. 2 weeks later, I stood in Jerome's office holding a cashier's check for $4,647,000. The mortgage reimbursement had added another $147,000. Oliver had released a statement acknowledging the affair, the prenup oversight, and apologizing for his treatment of me. The lawsuit against Candace was dismissed with prejudice. But the real satisfaction came from an unexpected source. The lottery investigation that had threatened to invalidate everything? It turned out someone had indeed tipped off the commission about the ticket being purchased with company funds. Not me, not Candace, Vanessa. She'd been the anonymous tipster, trying to sabotage Oliver's winnings because she'd discovered he'd been cheating on her too, with his new executive assistant. She'd wanted to punish him, but her plan backfired when the investigation proved the ticket was purchased with Oliver's personal funds, after all. When Oliver found out, he ended their relationship. The baby she was carrying would be his, but they wouldn't be together. Karma, it seemed, had perfect aim. 6 months later, I stood in the doorway of my new home, a beautiful 3-bedroom house in Decatur with a garden and a front porch. I'd paid cash. My mother was transferred to an even nicer nursing home with round-the-clock care. I donated $100,000 to Second Baptist Church's community fund. Another $50,000 went to the women's shelter where Pastor Rita had taken me in. The rest I invested carefully, ensuring I'd never be financially vulnerable again. Candace got a new job at a nonprofit, away from corporate politics and the Whitmore family orbit. We met for coffee sometimes, comparing notes on our new lives free from toxic people. I heard through mutual acquaintances that Oliver's consulting business collapsed under investigation for embezzlement. Candace's evidence had triggered an IRS audit. Reginald and Constance lost their investment entirely. They'd tried to use the prenup as a weapon, and it had destroyed them instead. As for me, I started volunteering at legal aid clinics, helping other women understand their rights in divorce proceedings. I took classes in contract law. I found purpose in empowering others the way my church community had empowered me. I never remarried, didn't need to. I had my independence, my dignity, and my peace. And sometimes, late at night on my front porch, I'd think about that prenuptial agreement. 37 pages of legal jargon designed to keep me in my place. Page 23, Section 7, Subsection C, the clause that changed everything. The Whitmores had built a cage for me with their precious prenup. They just never imagined I'd find the key hidden in their own words. That's all for today's story. If this touched your heart, please subscribe and share your own experiences below. We're all in this together.